Welcome to today's deep dive. Imagine if the chronic physical pain you're feeling right now wasn't just some random biological malfunction,
Right.
but what if it was actually like a perfect physical replica of a childhood trauma?
It's a huge shift in perspective.
It really is. So today we are exploring a deeply personal, highly alternative framework for understanding a condition that leaves so many people incredibly frustrated, and that's endometriosis.
Yes.
We're unpacking an article by Dr. Ntsele. She's a sacred relationship healer, and she focuses on womb healing, emotional patterns, and kind of guiding women back to wholeness.
Her article is titled The Illusion of Separation, the Underlying Cause Behind My Endometriosis, and it really is a profound piece of writing.
Yeah,
It asks us to step completely outside the traditional boundaries of Western medicine.
absolutely.
We're going to explore how physical symptoms might actually be directly connected to our emotional history, our spiritual bodies, and, the complex relationships between mothers, daughters, and the rhythms of nature.
Now, just to be clear for you listening, we aren't here to endorse stepping away from Western medicine. Right.
No, not at all.
And we aren't taking sides on these claims about the medical industry either. Our mission today is simply to unpack Dr. Ntsele's unique framework and thoroughly understand the ideas she's presenting.
Exactly. We're just exploring the source material.
I'm so ready to dive into this because I love uncovering new ways of looking at the world, especially when it challenges the default narratives we're handed.
It definitely does that.
But, you know, to understand the spiritual root cause that she proposes, we kind of have to start with the clinical baseline.
Right, the medical definition.
Yeah. She begins with the standard medical definition for endometriosis, which is rogue endometrial tissue growing on pelvic organs outside of the uterus.
The ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the bladder.
Exactly. But what really stands out is her reaction to the word chronic.
Yeah, that reaction is basically the catalyst for her entire philosophy. Because in Western medicine, when a patient hears the word chronic, there's a really heavy implication.
Right.
It essentially means the root cause is unknown, there's no definitive cure, and the condition can really only be managed.
Usually through like ongoing medication or surgery, right?
Yes. And her own specialist actually confirmed that there just wasn't enough conclusive evidence to explain why this tissue behaves the way it does.
Okay, let's unpack this because I know you, listening right now, might have a healthy dose of skepticism here.
Which is totally fair.
It is.
And myth.
Because Dr. Ntsele makes a massive leap. She goes from a physiological reality, misplaced tissue causing severe pain, to invoking spiritual meaning and mysticism.
Yeah.
And I mean, to someone raised strictly in a Western medical paradigm, those concepts belong in completely different universes.
They really do. But Dr. Ntsele addresses that exact skepticism head-on in her article.
How so?
Well, she acknowledges that many people immediately dismiss the concept of spiritual meaning in disease as just, mere mysticism. They treat it like a fairy tale.
Right.
But she argues that what we casually dismiss as mysticism or mythology is actually describing the exact same interconnected phenomena as quantum physics.
Wait. You can't just drop quantum physics and move
I
on.
know, it sounds like a jump.
It really does.
Eh.
How exactly does quantum entanglement or subatomic science relate to a spiritual explanation for rogue uterine tissue? Like, what is the actual link she's making there?
Okay, so if we look at quantum entanglement, it's the physical phenomenon where two particles become linked.
Okay.
And whatever happens to one particle instantaneously affects the other, even if they are separated by billions of light years.
Wow.
Yeah, the space between them is essentially an illusion. They are fundamentally connected.
I see.
So Dr. Ntsele is arguing that mysticism is just a different, much older vocabulary for that exact same scientific reality.
Oh, that makes sense.
Ancient spiritual traditions have always taught that we are invisibly entangled with our ancestors, our environment, and our emotional history. So the link she makes is that an emotional wound and a physical cell are entangled. You can't affect one without altering the other.
So she's saying the spiritual bond operates on the same mechanics as particle physics.
Precisely. And she takes it a step further.
Okay.
She asserts that the narrative that mysticism is unreal or shouldn't be entertained, that's an intentional suppression.
Really?
Yeah, from her viewpoint, this narrative is pushed by systems and industries that actually benefit from our collective ignorance about our own bodies and our inherent healing power.
Right. So by keeping these realms separate, telling us the physical body is over here and the spiritual is just fantasy over there, we remain dependent.
Exactly. Dependent and disconnected from the true root causes of our ailment.
I mean, I see the parallel she's drawing with interconnectedness, But I still struggle with how that broad, universal concept crystallizes into a very specific reproductive disorder.
And that's exactly what she had to figure out.
Right, because Western medicine couldn't provide her with a definitive why. So she turned her attention to her personal history
Yes.
to find out why this specific biological behavior was happening inside her own body.
And to find that mechanism, she really had to trace her life all the way back to her earliest developmental stages.
Yeah, Dr. Ntsele explains that she was not raised by her biological mother.
Right.
She was raised by relatives, a mother and a father who took her in. And she left her biological mother's nest when she was just 11 months old,
Very young.
extremely young. And then, at the age of 3, the move became permanent.
And the emotional environment surrounding that early transition is vital to her theory.
Yeah.
Her biological mother was deeply distressed by this separation. Dr. Ntsele notes that her mother cried over it and felt as though her child was essentially being stolen.
Or taken away from her, yeah.
Exactly, even though she was living with relatives.
Which is wild, because a lot of times we assume that trauma only stems from neglect or abuse.
Right, the obvious things.
Yeah. But Dr. Ntsele is very clear that she was not officially adopted, but rather taken care of. And the family that raised her was incredibly loving.
She explicitly states the comfort and love she received from this family was too good for her.
Yeah. She knew who her biological mother was. She spoke to her frequently. Her mother visited. On the surface, in the physical, visible realm, she was completely safe.
Safe, cared for, and loved.
Exactly.
Yet, that outward physical safety is exactly what masked the deeper, unseen issue.
Right.
She points out that while the physical comfort was present, profound damage was occurring in her spiritual body. And this introduces the concept of the interrupted bond.
Okay, let's really dig into what that means, because it perfectly bridges psychology and spirituality.
Yeah, the interrupted bond refers to the deep repercussions that happen when the fundamental energetic tether between a mother and a child is disrupted.
Especially during those highly formative years, right?
Yeah.
Between age 0 and 7.
Exactly. In developmental psychology, those years are the imprint period.
Right.
A child's nervous system is essentially a sponge calibrating itself to the primary caregiver.
So Dr. Ntsele applies a spiritual lens to this biological reality.
She does. She argues that even if the child is placed in a loving environment, the severing of that primary maternal tether leaves a profound energetic scar.
So the child absorbs the biological mother's grief.
Yes, and the sudden disruption of their foundational connection.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the parallel Dr. Ntsele draws between the fallout of this interrupted bond and her specific medical diagnosis is breathtaking.
It really is.
Let's revisit the definition of endometriosis. It is tissue that mimics the endometrium, building up and growing outside of the uterus.
Now look at the structure of her childhood.
Right. She was growing up outside of her biological mother's home, essentially outside of her mother's metaphorical uterus.
Yes.
And she was being raised by a relative who was mimicking a mother's role, doing exactly what a mother does. The rogue tissue in her body was mimicking the uterine lining, growing in a place it didn't biologically belong, just as she grew up in a home that wasn't her biological origin.
It's incredible.
Her physical body was perfectly, exactly replicating the spiritual trauma of her childhood separation.
When you lay the two blueprints over each other, it is just a stunning realization.
It really is.
Dr. Ntsele believes that when things are not done in agreement, when a foundational bond is interrupted, even with the best of intentions or with a loving substitute, the body keeps the score.
Oh, absolutely.
It manifests the unhealed, invisible emotional pattern right into tangible physical form. The physical ailment becomes a literal metaphor for the emotional wound.
So the tissue in her body was literally acting out the story of her childhood.
Yes.
But mechanically, how does a feeling or a severed emotional tether become rogue tissue on an ovary decades later? Like, how does the invisible actually become visible?
This brings us to the core of Dr. Ntsele's philosophy, which is the illusion of separation. And this concept directly challenges how modern culture trains us to see the world.
Because we categorize everything.
Exactly. We're taught to hyper-categorize. The mind is in the brain. The body is a machine below the neck. You are a discrete individual over there, and I'm a discrete individual over here.
But she argues that life is fundamentally interconnected.
Yes.
Her view is that we aren't human beings trying to have a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
That's a great way to put it.
We exist far beyond what we can just touch and see. So she introduces the idea that you are not separate from your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body, or your etheric body.
Right, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it alters our entire perception of human architecture.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the etheric body. For those unfamiliar, think of it like an architectural blueprint.
Right.
Before you can build a physical house out of bricks and mortar, you have to have a detailed blueprint that dictates where every wall and wire goes.
Makes sense.
In many esoteric and healing traditions, the etheric body is described as that energetic, invisible blueprint for your physical body.
Wow.
So any trauma or distortion that happens in the energy blueprint will eventually manifest as a structural issue in the physical body.
So the damage to the etheric blueprint caused the tissue to grow incorrectly.
Exactly.
And this lack of separation, it applies to our relationships too.
Yes, it does.
Dr. Ntsele points out that even after the physical umbilical cord is cut at birth, a mother and child remain deeply connected on that energetic level.
Right. That tether remains.
She realized that she could actually feel and sense her biological mother's emotions and distress. Those emotions were happening outside of her physical body, but she felt them within herself because they shared that unseen tether.
It completely dissolves the boundaries of where you end and the rest of the world begins.
And to make this concept of interconnected systems a bit more grounded, Dr. Ntsele uses a real-world analogy in the text that makes perfect sense.
I love this analogy.
Think about the simple act of typing on a keyboard. Right now, if you are writing an email, your mind is translating abstract thoughts into physical form through the complex movements of your fingers.
Right.
And at the exact same time, your eyes are scanning the screen, your ears are monitoring the background noise in your environment, and your digestive system is processing your breakfast.
And what's fascinating here is that you are not consciously controlling the mechanics of any of that.
Exactly. You aren't individually commanding each tendon in your hand or consciously telling your inner ear to convert sound waves into electrical signals for your brain.
It just happens.
It all happens simultaneously, harmoniously, and unconsciously.
Yeah.
She uses this to prove that we exist and operate on levels far beyond our conscious physical understanding. Our mental, physical, and energetic bodies are all working together simultaneously without us having to orchestrate it.
And if our bodies are this deeply enmeshed with the people and the unseen energy around us, it stands to reason that we can't just isolate ourselves from our physical environment either.
Oh, definitely not.
We are connected to the broader natural world. And that shifts us into how Dr. Ntsele views the timing and method of actual healing.
Right, because if separation is an illusion, we are not separate from nature, and nature dictates when we should be healing.
Yes.
She believes that true healing lies in returning to the natural rhythms of the earth, which is a concept that indigenous ancestors deeply understood and integrated into their lifestyles.
They understood that to be healthy, you have to live in harmony with the cycles of the planet.
Yeah. And she highlights a very specific, significant date in her article to illustrate this, June 21st.
Which is so relevant.
Now, for you listening right now, June 21st was just yesterday.
Yes. And in the Southern Hemisphere, where Dr. Ntsele is writing from, June 21st is the winter solstice.
Right.
It is deep winter. It is literally the longest night of the entire year.
Meanwhile, up in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the summer solstice.
Right. But focusing on that deep winter energy in the South, indigenous sciences view this specific time of year as the optimal window for spiritual healing and inner work.
Okay, notice how our visual backdrop just shifted to a starry, deep winter night sky.
Yes, I see that.
That represents exactly what we're discussing. According to these traditions, winter is a time for hibernation.
Mother Nature pulls her energy inward, away from outward growth.
And the metaphor here is beautiful and intentional. Hibernation is deeply similar to being in the womb.
It really is.
It is dark, it's quiet, it's a protected space of gestating and restoring.
And it's not just a poetic metaphor. There is serious endocrinology and biology backing this up.
Oh, absolutely.
Dr. Ntsele points out that our physical bodies are actually at the peak of their healing capabilities during this time of year because of melatonin.
Which is wild.
We tend to think of melatonin just as, the hormone that makes us sleepy, but it's much more than that.
Right. It's a powerful antioxidant and a master restorer. It scavenges free radicals and literally signals the mitochondria in our cells to repair damage.
Yes. And because the nights are longest during the winter solstice, we spend more time in darkness. That extended darkness triggers a massive peak in melatonin secretion, allowing the body to engage in deeper, longer periods of cellular restoration.
So human biology is syncing perfectly with the planetary season.
Exactly. And Dr. Ntsele layers this even further by bringing in the astrological and cyclical connection.
Yeah, she notes that right around this solstice, the moon is in its first quarter, which corresponds to the follicular phase of the human menstrual cycle.
And just to break that down, the follicular phase is the time right after menstruation finishes, leading up to ovulation.
Okay.
Energetically and biologically, it mimics the spring season. It's a time of renewal, new beginnings, and preparing the body for new growth.
And to actually track all these overlapping
Yep.
cycles, she mentions using something she calls a sacred womb app.
Yes.
Now, this isn't just a standard period tracker that counts days on a calendar.
No, not at all.
The way these holistic apps function is by overlaying a person's biometric data, like basal body temperature and the intermenstrual phases, directly onto the current lunar cycle and the seasonal shifts.
So it helps a person consciously align their inner biological rhythm with the outer phases of the moon and the earth.
It's a profound synthesis of information.
It really is. What's fascinating here is how she weaves together indigenous ancestral wisdom, biological endocrinology, and astrological cycles to pinpoint this exact moment in time.
Yeah.
You have the deep restorative womb-like energy of the winter solstice, combined with the biological healing power of peak melatonin, paired with the renewing energy of the follicular moon phase.
Wow.
It is nature aligning all of its forces to support a deep structural emotional excavation, specifically cleansing the mother wound.
So what does this all mean? What is the practical takeaway for you, the listener, navigating your own life, your own history, and perhaps your own physical ailments?
Well, the core message Dr. Ntsele wants to convey is a radical reframing of how we view physical pain.
Okay.
Period pains, or the severe debilitating pain of a condition like endometriosis, are not just normal inconveniences that you are supposed to blindly push through or numb into submission. They are a direct, urgent communication from your body.
Or a plea.
Yeah.
Your body is begging you to pay attention to your internal landscape, to look at your emotional history, and to actively heal a tether that was broken or interrupted long ago.
Yes.
She writes this incredible, haunting line, "Your body knows what your mind forgets."
That is such a powerful reminder that our bodies are living archives of our experiences.
Oh, for sure.
You can bury a memory. You can rationalize a childhood trauma by saying your caregivers loved you, but the physical body remembers the energetic impact.
Yeah.
Choosing to ignore the warning message, whether it's inflammation, pain, or rogue tissue, won't change the fact that something demands your attention.
Right. The physical body will just keep sounding the alarm, getting louder and louder, until you take the necessary steps to heal the etheric blueprint. Because, as her entire framework argues, separation is an illusion.
Exactly.
You cannot permanently treat the physical symptoms while ignoring the emotional body, the spiritual history, or your connection to the rhythms of nature. They are all one continuous entangled thread.
And this raises an important question, something for you to really sit with and explore on your own after this deep dive ends.
Look at.
If an unhealed emotional wound, like an interrupted bond between a mother and an infant, can literally manifest decades later as misplaced, mimicking physical tissue in the body, what other seemingly random physical quirks, chronic aches, or unexplainable ailments might you be carrying?
Oh, wow.
What else might actually be your body desperately trying to send you a deeply personal historical message that you've been tuning out?
It completely shifts how you listen to yourself.
It really does.
Whether you are dealing with chronic physical ailments or you're just on a journey to understand yourself on a deeper level, the first step is acknowledging that connection.
Yes. Trust your intuition.
Remember that you are part of nature, and true healing comes from aligning with it, not fighting it. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration today.
Thanks for listening.
Next time you feel a twinge, an ache, or a pain, remember, the body isn't just a machine that breaks. It's a canvas, and sometimes it's painting a picture of a story that your mind has forgotten, waiting for you to finally see it. Keep listening to yourselves out there.